When I arrived outside of the gates of heaven, I wanted to go in and plead my case, but the angels stopped me. They said, wait. We brought you to the tunnel to perceive 4 truths. You saw only 3. Go look again. They brought me to the tunnel and let me watch until 50 saints had been permitted to enter the gates of heaven. Then they came back and I couldn't perceive the 4th truth. So they told me what they wanted me to see and I could not see. They wanted me to be aware of the number of the saints in the tunnel. The insignificant number. And then told me what I was looking at was a segment of time frame taken out of the planet Earth. On August 3rd, 1979, the same time I was experiencing my physical problems, a span that covered approximately 15-minute span of time. These 50 saints had died in Christ the physical death in that same 15-minute span of time. The host of heaven then testified to me that 1,950 more humans had also died in that same time frame, but they were not there. 50 out of 2,000 made it to heaven. Mathematically speaking, that's 2.5%. And then the host of heaven testified to me why I was permitted to see that. Because on that day, August 3rd, 1979, it represented the spiritual condition of the planet Earth. Had that been the day the trumpet would have blown so loud it would have wakened the dead, according to the testimony of the holy angels, Jesus would have found ready to go home 2.5% of the population of the planet Earth. 97.5 would have missed it August 3rd, 1979. If that would have been the day, would you have been in that number that day? 97.5 would not have made it on that day. Only 2.5% was ready to go. What do you think Jesus was talking about when he said in Matthew chapter 7, verse 13, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few, F-E-W, and few there be that find it. I leave it to you. As I arrived back to the gate to go into heaven, the angels stopped me. They said, wait, if you go in, you can't come out. You're going to have to stay till he brings you back. But I said, if I can't come out, that means my life is over. And you told me I would be allowed to plead for an extension of my life. The angel said, then you stand outside these gates and talk to him, and he will hear you. I came to the gates, I looked up. You know, I couldn't see the tops of those gates. I couldn't see the tops of those gates. I was in the Spirit, standing outside of the gates of the third heaven. My body was in that ambulance. It was in that hospital. Wherever it was, I wasn't in it. This was not a hallucination, nor a dream, nor a vision. This was an experience. I stood outside of that gate. I did not see inside. I was not permitted to see God, nor inside the gates themselves. But I was allowed to talk to him standing in front of the gate. And when the conversation was over, God answered me. God gave me a message which I'm standing here to share with you today. But before I do, I want to quote verbatim part of what God said to me that day. But I want you to understand, according to his own word, the seriousness of the charge I have just made to you. And I want you to know I'm aware of it. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 20. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. That sounds pretty final, doesn't it? If you think that sounds final, you ought to read that in the Hebrew. The English language does not convey half the meaning it really has. The real meaning not only means physical, but it means spiritual as well as physical. God said, if you lie in my name, I will kill you physically and spiritually. God said it. Is God a liar? Choice is yours. I tend to believe God does what He says myself. I take Him seriously. Some people don't. With this in mind, I'm going to quote verbatim part of what God said. I was allowed to plead my case, standing outside the gates of heaven. When it was over, God spoke to me in an audible voice. It wasn't a sweet voice. It wasn't lovely. It wasn't desirable. It wasn't anything like the voice the devil had used. You could take the noise of all the storms, the roars of all the oceans, the volcanoes, the tornadoes, roll them all up into one, and they wouldn't mimic what I heard.